Hi guys, it's Claire,
And Kelly,
and this is our third video of Kelly and Claire's recovery.
thanks for joining us.
Yeah, so in this video we're going to talk a little bit about the word trigger.
And how it's overused
Yeah.
way too much.
It really is overused a lot. And, you know, when you're in treatment, you always hear people say, like, you know, that's triggering, or stop talking about that, you're triggering me, but, like...
Trigger. It's overused.
Yeah.
So our opinions on this topic are kind of opinionated on this.
Mm-hmm.
We both think it's way overused, and you need to learn how to deal with your triggers. Like, I understand when you're first starting treatment, or even if you're just starting recovery, not necessarily even in a treatment facility, you need to be aware of your triggers, and you need to know how to handle your triggers, because you're going to be in school, or you're going to be at work, you're going to be in another environment outside of people that understand eating disorders, and you're going to be triggered eventually.
Right.
Like, you can't live in a trigger-free world.
Yeah, like once you kind of leave the bubble of treatment, you're definitely going to experience triggers. And I get that, like, in treatment, there should be rules. Like, you shouldn't be allowed to talk about, you know, calories or your meal plan or your weight, because that's just inappropriate. And a lot of times, like, out in the real world, people don't really talk about those specifics anyways. So I get that there needs to be some kind of, like, stipulations and rules, because some things are just, like, irrelevant. But
when you're in the real world, people are going to talk about diets, they're going to talk about losing weight, and it's annoying to listen to a lot of the time, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, so I don't know, like, it's definitely important, like Kelly said, to know your triggers and to just have tools that you can use to be able to get through it, because, you know, it's going to happen. So, and there's definitely, like, you know, times where you can say to someone, you know, that's kind of triggering, but, like, outside, like, when you're not in a treatment setting, I've never,
not with your family.
or if you're not with your family, like, I've never used the phrase to somebody, "You're triggering me, please stop." Like, I know that people that in treatment, they'll tell you that, like, you can say that, but no, nobody does say that. I feel like.
So, I don't know. I think it's really hard to have friends with eating disorders a lot of the time, because there's so many things that you can't say. But with me and Claire, I feel like we just set the boundaries, or if we really want to talk about something, we're kind of like, okay, I'm going to mention a specific behavior. Is it okay if I talk about that?
Yeah.
Or, like, we kind of let the person know what we're going to say before we say it, so that we're not constantly saying, like, you're going to trigger me, don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Like, we have boundaries that we don't really talk about, but we pretty much are able to say whatever we want to say without having to mention. Like, you don't need to mention calories, you don't need to mention your weight. You can talk about what you want to talk about without mentioning, like, really specific numbers.
Yeah, we pretty much, like, have our boundaries set, but they're not, like
they're not strict.
They're not strict, yeah, and we don't, like, always have to, like, say them or, like, state them or anything like that. They're kind of just, like,
we know what we're talking about. We know what each other's talking about. I don't think I've ever used the words, like, Claire, you're triggering me. Stop.
Yeah. Yeah, so the word trigger, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of it. I think that it's just, I think we both think it's pretty much overused. And I think it's easier to use the word trigger with people who do have eating disorders, but again, like, if you're out with, like, friends who don't, or, like, family, you know,
people don't understand
what trigger is.
What's trigger? Like, I know my mom, when I first started therapy and treatment, and I was like, "Mom, you're triggering me." She's like, "I have no idea what you're talking about."
Yeah.
So, a lot of people, like, it seems pretty self-explanatory to say, like, you're triggering me, but people without eating disorders, or, like, without mental health issues, probably don't even know what that means. So, I think if you are going through some sort of recovery process, like, you need to be aware that people don't read your mind. Like, they don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah. I know, like, my mom, when she was commenting on, like, somebody's weight, it, like, really upset me, and I was just like, that's, like, I didn't know what else to say, and I was like, that's really triggering, and she just looked at me like, what? Like, what did I do? So, like, you have to, like, realize that once you're, like, out of, like, treatment, or, you know, if you're hanging out.
The recovery bubble.
Yeah, the recovery bubble, exactly, that, like, people aren't going to really, you know, people are going to say what they're going to say, and it's hard to, you know, be in a, like,
bubble.
Yeah, exactly, all the time, because you're going to be out, and, I mean, especially if you're a student, you know, if you're in high school, if you're in college, you know, people talk about that stuff all the time, and you just have to learn to, like, push it out of your mind and not let it bother you.
I know for when I was on my field work, because if you're in the health profession, like, that's something that's so common to deal with, like, people talking about diets or weight, or having a client with a weight issue and that's why they're getting help. Like, it's just so common, so you have to learn how to deal with it. Mm-hmm. And I know that it was something that was constant when I was on my field work, and I found that I would have to, like, kind of prepare myself for it in some way, shape, or form. And when it was something that was really bothering me, even to this day, like, I'm kind of at the point where I know that people aren't going to change, and they're going to talk about what they want to talk about. And I need to learn how to deal with it. So I find, like, even journaling about it and how ridiculous the person sounds to be helpful, or, like, talking to someone afterwards about how the conversation was just annoying. And I don't even find, like, when people talk about numbers and stuff like that anymore, it doesn't trigger me, it annoys me.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's just more frustrating than anything. And I remember, like, the first time that Kelly and I were in treatment together, we got a do's and don'ts list to hand out to our family members, which was this huge, like, on one side of the paper, this huge list of don't say this, don't say that, like, what not to say.
And like, what can you say?
Exactly, like, what are you allowed to say? Like, I remember my parents getting it and looking at it like,
is there anything we can say?
Yeah, like, I don't know if I can remember all these rules. Like, it's like walking on eggshells, and I hated that feeling of, like, my family thought that they had to walk on eggshells around me.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even realize it either. Like, when I went away to inpatient and I had a therapy session with my sister over the phone, she's like, I feel like I'm walking on eggshells constantly because I don't know what I can say and can say around you without you getting upset. And you don't want people to have to feel uncomfortable around you. You want them to feel like they can talk to you and hang out with you, and they don't have to constantly watch what they're saying.
Yeah.
But we're going on a tangent about this.
Yes. We feel strongly about the word trigger.
So we're going to end it here, but thanks for watching, guys.
All right, bye. See you soon.